Welcome to California Unearthed. I'm in Redding, California today along the Sacramento River. I'm actually standing on the Diesel Horse Bridge, which is part of old Highway 99. But today I'm going to be traveling 2¼ miles up the Sacramento River to an old 1919 train derailment site. I'll be following the Sacramento River Trail, or the Sacramento River Rail Trail, up to the site. The railroad tracks were built in the early 1880s up the Sacramento River Canyon, and we'll be following the old route 2¼ miles up to the train derailment site. So come join me as we go check it out. Here is the entrance to the south side of the river trail, just near Diesel Horse Bridge. And we'll be following this 2¼ miles to the train derailment site. It is a cold morning this morning. Whew. Well, that is where we are headed, just past Mill Creek Trail and before you get to the Ribbon Bridge. The train derailed 1/4 mile past Middle Creek, and the Ribbon Bridge was built in 1990, so that obviously was not there when this train derailed. But the Mill Creek Trail is about 1/4 mile or less before you get to Mill Creek. But the train had just left Mill Creek Station heading north when it derailed. Like I said, just 1/4 mile up the rails. All right, we're at Middle Creek, so we're almost to the derailment site. Just about 1/4 mile up the trail here. Middle Creek going into the Sacramento River. All right, I've made it out to the derailment site, but I want to give a quick thank you to my friend Cheryl Ware and her brother Roger, who had the photographs that I am posting in this video. Their grandmother had put them in a photo album, and they did not know that they even existed until here recently, and then told me about them. And so I did my research and found a couple of newspaper articles, one in the Shasta Courier, the other in the Free Press, both written a little differently, but very exciting to find. So the information that I'm about to give you comes from those two articles. So let's go check out this derailment site. I matched it up as close as I could, and I think it is pretty exact. So see what you guys think. 103 years ago this week, on December 20th, 1919, at 8:26 in the morning, engineer G. Irwin was at the throttle, and conductor W. L. Moxie was in control of train 54 heading north to Portland that just left Redding shortly after 8 a.m. But here at Ram's Horn Creek, which is right behind me, Unfortunately, there was a broken rail that derailed train 54. And we're going to go check out where the cars lay and where this train derailed right behind me. Engineer G. Irwin was heading up these tracks fairly slowly due to weather conditions on December 20th when he hit this bridge at Ramshorn Creek where there was a broken rail. When he realized that the train was about to derail, he slammed the brakes as quick as he possibly could, possibly saving lives. But 7 cars derailed that morning after he hit this rail. It was 4 baggage and express cars, a Pullman sleeper, a dining car, and a tourist sleeper car. And down here at this curve is where most of the cars lay. Two baggage cars went over the edge about a 45-degree angle right about here. This is about where the 2 baggage cars formed a V that you see in the photograph. And as you see in the photograph as well, the river was much closer that morning than it is today. But also, we didn't have Shasta Dam or Keswick Dam in 1919. And then down here is where the dining car and the Pullman sleeper toppled over against the embankment right here. And I'm going to get a better angle. You can see these rocks right there in the photograph. But let me get you the angle as close as I can to that photograph. But right here on this embankment is where that dining car and the Pullman sleeper rested. In the dining car, there were people at breakfast that morning. Most all the dishes and coffee cups were broken, but miraculously, all the eggs were saved. Not an egg was broken, but the dishes were a different story. There were 5 passenger cars that remained on the tracks down here that were full of passengers, a lot of them still asleep. They got jostled as well. But those 5 cars ended up going back to Reading once they got a wrecker and crews down here from Dunsmuir around 2 o'clock. But the other 7 were picked up and taken care of by the wrecker and crews from Dunsmuir. This is a view from down the hill looking upward. That's where the dining car and Pullman coach would have been sitting, right there. The 2 baggage cars would have been sitting right here over the edge, over the embankment. The telegraph poles would have been along here as well. The guy who took the photograph probably stood back here a little farther. but definitely the spot. Then the other photographs were taken from on top of the hill here, looking down on the cars. So like I said, the crews came down from Dunsmuir around 2 o'clock. Another wrecker came up from Chico an hour later to help out, and they had all this cleaned up by 11 o'clock that night. And train number 16, which was supposed to leave Reading on Saturday morning the 20th as well, was stuck in Reading due to this derailment. There's also, if you look in the photographs, telegraph lines that ran along the railroad tracks here. Those telegraph lines were broken, and so there's no communication to the Dunsmuir dispatch. But crews quickly got those telegraph lines repaired and got communication back to Dunsmuir. And then another note about this derailment is that these were steel cars. And they said if these were wooden rail cars, that there would have been a whole lot more damage and a whole lot more injuries. Speaking of injuries, there was only 3 minor injuries in this derailment. One was a young woman who got a scratch on her left arm when she fell in the aisle she was walking down when the train derailed. The second was another young woman who got a scratch on her heel. The third was E.C. Watts, a baggage man from Oakland, who got a minor laceration on his thumb from baggage rolling around. This could have been a whole lot worse. Everybody got very lucky that morning. And what's funny about this derailment as well is they say that there may have been what the newspaper calls treasure or gold on board, because there was 3 armed shotgun messengers on board as well. Pretty cool. This is the view that you would have seen outside of the rail car going by. Probably not much has changed since 1919. This is a view from the east side of the Sacramento River looking over at the derailment site. It's also said that when this train derailed, it hit with such force that it turned a lot of the railroad ties into kindling, and a lot of the metal track was twisted, and some of it was buried into the earth. Once word got back to Reading about this derailment, all physicians were told to make haste out to the site where 5 cars had gone into the river. But of course, once the physicians got here, they realized they only had 3 minor injuries and that 5 cars did not go into the river. But with a train derailment or any accident, you have looky-loos. There was over 100 automobiles that came out here, and looky-loos wanted to see what was going on. So we had those as well. But I thought that was kind of funny. All physicians in Reading were called to come out here to guide in healing the injured. But only 3 were injured. And the fact that 5 cars were in the river, and that wasn't the case. But like I said, 7 cars derailed, 4 baggage express cars, a dining car, the Pullman sleeper, which was empty of any passengers or crew. The locomotive also derailed, or partially derailed, and that was not included in the 7 cars that I just told you about. So there was 7 cars and the locomotive. I believe one truck was still left on the tracks from the locomotive. So that is it here at the derailment site. This is pretty cool. And what's funny about it is, this being a river trail, you have hundreds of people biking, walking, running, you name it. They come through here every single day and probably have no idea that there was a train derailment here 103 years ago. Interesting. So that'll do it for me today. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode of California Unearthed. If you did, smash the like button, subscribe to my channel, and we will see you guys on the next episode of California Unearthed.